In this video, we're taking a look at 3 books that I recently cracked, pressed, and resubmitted to be regraded by CGC because I thought the books had potential to get higher grades. And in this video, we're going to look at the numbers and answer the question, is it worth it to do so? And there's several different ways to look at it. You can look at it from a dealer's perspective, which is my perspective of getting more value or equity in the books to make more money. But you can also look at it purely from the collector's standpoint of, is it worth it or not? If you're talking about your own books in your own collection, because I deal with people all the time where they say, hey, I'm looking to upgrade my copy here. I'm looking to upgrade. And sometimes there's the opportunity to upgrade by just improving the books that you already have. This process of CPR is something that I used to do all the time in my early days as a dealer, and even before that as just a collector, when I had more time. Number one, that was the biggest consideration, and I had the time to put in the sweat equity to do all the pressing and cleaning myself of the books. And also the market was on the rise. So sometimes even if you didn't get the grade bump, the market was going so crazy that by the time you got it back from CGC, you had more equity in the book. But now with a kind of a flatlined market, maybe a slightly declining market, but for the most part, a flatlined market and a softer market, you really have to make sure that it's a slam dunk. It's a home run, that there's a clear path to success for this thing to make sense for you. And that's when you need to really look at the numbers before you actually do it. And for a couple of years there, I just stopped doing it altogether. I had some really bad experiences where I did massive improvements on books and they came back lower grade, and I lost money and time, and the frustration of that just left such a bad taste in my mouth that I kind of abandoned it as a part of my business model for a long time. And then recently, now that the market has stabilized more, I've started to look at it again. And if there is a slam dunk, sometimes I'll do it, right? I still kind of steer away from it. In fact, I just got a collection in of X-Men books. Not a single one of them was press cleaned and graded. In fact, let's cut to a little clip of that. So this is just some of them. These are all old cases. You can tell because they're thinner. This is a really old label, an 8.0 X-Men. None of these have been pressed or cleaned, and almost all of them have improvable defects. But I just, if I were to do every single one that comes through the shop, it just ties up too much time for me. But all this to say that there are opportunities on the website to find good CPR candidates. In addition to those mid-grade X-Men's, I just got a massive run of 9/8 white page X-Men's on the website from issue number 108 to 141, all 9/8 newsstands. Just an absolute incredible thing to look at, to see them all right there. So go check out brycecomics.com. And today is Memorial Day. We're going to do 15% off today only, off the recently added section at brycecomics.com. Use the code that's on the screen. I haven't set it up yet. I don't know what it's going to be, but use the code on the screen. Today only, Memorial Day, for 15% off. And we also have the brand new refreshed clearance section for 20% off. So 139 products just added. All of the old stuff was taken out, and all of this is 20% off. All you have to do is add it to your cart, and the discount will automatically apply, and you can combine stuff from recently added and the clearance section. So the first book that we're looking at is Tales of Suspense number 40. It was a 7.0. I had it on the site. It wasn't moving. Took a closer look at it and thought, man, this is a good candidate for CPR. I've always loved this book. At some point in my collecting journey, I will revive, collecting all the different iterations of Iron Man's armor. Iron Man's one of my favorite characters. But as of right now, all of those issues come in so frequently, I don't feel like I need to keep one for my personal collection. But Tales of Suspense 40 is the second appearance of Iron Man and the first appearance of his gold armor. And it's a very rare book. It's difficult to find it available in high grade. And so any grade bump is a good thing. So I had it on the site as a 7.0, and it came back a 7.5. So I'll do a little voiceover here of the before and after. One of the added benefits is you get a nice, clean, pristine case back from CGC, which is always more aesthetically pleasing. Here you can see down by the right-hand side of his hat, a finger bend that was removed, and there was finger bends all throughout this book. Like here, you can see a couple more fingerprints, just an overall cleaner cover after it's been cleaned. And that was the thing that I saw through the case was the finger bends. And I thought, well, those could be improved. And then this is probably the biggest improvement is this massive fingerprint that was removed. And I will say that this is not something that I saw through the case. And that's what you have to be really careful of is all of those unknowns. And a lot of times you can't get fingerprints off depending on the type of fingerprint that it is or the type of paper, like a back of an ASM 300 with that shiny black is just not going to get fingerprints out. So the original value of this book was $1,600 in a 7.0, and it came back a 7.5, and the value of a 7.5 is $2,400, significant increase. If it went to an 8.0, it's even more than that. An 8.5 is like $4,000, 8.0 is $3,400, but we got the 7.5. The total cost was $140. That's pressing, cleaning, shipping, and grading, all in $140 for a net increase of $660. The next book on the list is ASM number 32 in an 8.5. I had it on the website as an 8.5 for $350, and it was 8.5 white, and it came back a 9.0 white. This is the second appearance of Dr. Kurt Connors, just an awesome 12-cent Spidey from 1966. So I think several things were happening here. One, I was blinded by desire, thinking it could improve more than it really could. Two, it was overgraded to begin with, which is common for slabs of this era on the left in my experience. And three, there was things that I couldn't see through the case that presented themselves after it was cracked out. Here you can see on the left, this is the before, on the right is the after, some pretty deep dents that go along with the spine stress. Of course, the color break is still there. That's something to keep in mind. You can never get rid of color break without restoration. And here's the back of the book. Look at how much better it looks on the right-hand side. But that was one of the things I couldn't really see through the case was that discoloration there at the bottom. And I think that's what, held it back to a 9.0. I was probably hoping to get like a 9.2 or better on this, which just was never in the cards for this book. So the new value is $525. The cost was $75, a little bit less because it wasn't as valuable of a book, for a net increase of $100. So this is a good example of $100, and we're going to talk about time and is it worth it here in just a second. But as a collector, I mean, getting your 8.5 to a 9.0, that's worth it as a collector. I mean, especially for early Spideys. I mean, a lot of people collect 9.0 and above, and so if you can buy in at an 8.5, send it off for somebody else to do all the work and get your 9.0 for $100 less, that's worth it. And I think there are a lot of opportunities like that. If you scour auction houses, and I would stick to auctions. One of the biggest ways to make this successful is your buy-in, right? If you pay a high price for something that has potential, now you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But if you get a good price on something that has potential, now you're like exponentially increasing your equity. The last book is Amazing Spider-Man number 30. It was an 8.0 valued at $265. It was cream to off-white pages, and the result is an 8.5. Page quality is an interesting thing that sometimes the page quality can change. All the books in this video, they stayed the same, but oftentimes you can get a bump on page quality because that part of the grading process is subjective as well. And then sometimes you can lose page quality, like going from white to off-white to white, which could be devastating for the value of some books. Sometimes a book like this, where look how much better it looks in the new case, if you're going to send it in to be reholdered anyway, if it even has any chance at a bump, you might want to go, instead of just reholdering, press, clean, and resubmitting. Here you can see a giant finger bend that was completely removed, and it came back 9.0. You got to be really careful with the 8.5 and 9.0 range, because there's oftentimes limiting factors that are really hard to surpass. Once you go from like the 9.2 to 9.4 to 9.6 to 9.8, anything like 9.2 or above is pretty much free from huge defects like large creases and things. It's usually really small defects at that point. So you just got to be careful with the 8.5 9.0s. Also, sometimes there's something to keep it at an 8.5 or an 8.0, like a long non-color breaking crease that can be completely removed, and you can bump it to a 9.8. And I've seen that happen on massive books, and it's happened to me as well. I think with an ASM 194, those non-color breaking creases can still hold it back to an 8.5, and those are huge opportunities for CPR. And the value of an 8.5 is $325. The cost is $75 for a net loss of $15. So after all of that, it came back a higher grade, but it's actually cost me $15. Like, I'm in the hole $15 on it, even with the bump. And so this is a good example of not being blinded by desire, you know, and knowing and thinking of, before you even do it, if it only gets a half-point bump, you're in the hole. And how likely is that going to be? We were successful on, 66%. It's not a very good sample size with just 3 books. But if we were to do this on a scale of like 100 books, and if 33% of them did not make the cut or ended in a net loss, and sometimes it can be a significant net loss, if you're taking a significant loss or a loss at all on 33% of the time, I think your end result would still be positive. And this is where it's just very personal to know whether or not it's worth it, because you have to consider the time. So for me, the time that I put into this was 10 minutes. It took me 10 minutes to fill out a CGC form, print it out, and send these books to Ron. Everything else was taken care of for me. So I only spent 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, and I made a net profit of $745. So I did do one more test of this where I sent off, I think, like 5 or 6 books that are around this $100 range potential increase. And I want to do another video on that and crunch all the numbers and see what the takeaway was. I have a feeling that my end takeaway is going to be, don't even bother with stuff with like $100 increase, and stick to the stuff that's an absolute shoe-in for the really expensive stuff. So my biggest advice with this, if you're a collector looking to do this to upgrade their collection, or a seller looking to, flip it, is don't be blinded by desire. There's lots of videos on this YouTube channel that I've put out that show you how to pick good candidates. Resist the knee-jerk reaction to just try it with everything, okay? It's only a very, very small percentage of books that it actually makes sense on. Unless you find a honey hole, sometimes there's collections out there where the collector has an entire collection of books that were not pressed and cleaned and are completely undergraded, and there are situations like that. But one positive about using Ron from Palm Beach Presser is, for a small fee, he will screen it for you and let you know whether or not he thinks it has a chance. And at least that way, you're only spending a little bit of money instead of actually cracking out and going through the whole process. And I would venture to say that, a lot of the books that you send him to screen, he'll be completely honest and say, no, this one just doesn't stand a chance. So anyways, I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It enters you to win 2 free slabs this month. And if you sign up for the newsletter while you're at brycecomics.com, you're entered to win 2 free slabs over there as well. Follow me over on Whatnot, link down below for $15 towards your first purchase. And thanks as always for sticking with me to the end of the video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.